The sky over Boston hung heavy with gray clouds, casting a muted light over the city cemetery. It was a somber day, the kind where the weight of sorrow seemed to seep into every corner. A sea of mourners in black clothing gathered, their dark attire starkly contrasting the dreary backdrop. They had come to bid farewell to Robert, a man whose life had been as grand as his real estate empire. His departure left a void that no one could quite fill. Catherine, now in her late 60s, stood by Robert's grave, her face etched with profound sadness. She seemed lost in the crowd, a fragile figure draped in black. Her eyes, once bright with a spark of adventure and love, now reflected a deep and abiding loneliness. Robert, who had risen from humble beginnings to become a titan in the real estate world, had left her with more than just memories. He had left her a fortune of $150 million. Yet it was the emotional void, not the financial security, that loomed largest in her heart. Their children, Jane and Michael, were there too. Jane, at 42, was a blend of concern and stoicism. Her eyes often shifted to her mother, worried about the woman who had once been vibrant and full of life. Michael, 38, stood beside her, a reassuring presence. He and his family had come to support Catherine in their own way, but even their collective efforts seemed unable to bridge the chasm left by Robert's death. In the days that followed, Catherine struggled with her daily routine. The once celebrated woman of social gatherings and lively conversation had become a shadow of her former self. Friends and family tried to reach out, but Catherine found it difficult to engage. Her vibrant past with Robert, filled with travels and joyous moments, now seemed like a distant dream. She increasingly distanced herself from those who cared for her, enveloped in a cocoon of solitude. Recognizing her plight, her family decided to implement a visitation schedule to ensure she wasn't left alone too much. Michael, along with his wife and children, visited on Mondays. Jane and her family came on Tuesdays. Adam, the youngest, took Thursdays and Fridays. Despite these efforts, Catherine remained deeply lonely, her days blending into one another with an overwhelming sense of emptiness. The only breaks in her isolation came from her grandson Daniel. The lively young man used Catherine's backyard for his weekend parties. The laughter and music from these gatherings were often the only sounds that broke through Catherine's quiet solitude. It was at one of these parties that Catherine first noticed him, a young man named Luke. Luke, at 22, was strikingly handsome, with an easy confidence and an air of charm that reminded Catherine of Robert in his youth. It was Luke's casual approach, his way of blending into the festivities while still seeming somehow apart, that caught Catherine's attention. When he approached her, their conversation started with simple pleasantries but soon delved into deeper topics. Luke expressed his admiration for Catherine's wisdom and grace, and she found herself unexpectedly drawn to him. Their conversations grew more frequent, and Catherine began to feel a spark of excitement she hadn't felt in years. Luke's attentiveness and interest seemed to awaken a part of her that had lain dormant. It wasn't long before their meetings became a highlight of Catherine's week. She looked forward to their talks, to the moments when she could once again feel the warmth of companionship. However, as Catherine's spirits began to lift, her children grew concerned. They noticed the change in her mood and the frequency with which she spoke of Luke. Concern turned into suspicion as they began to question Luke's intentions. Catherine reassured them of her happiness, explaining that Luke brought a sense of joy and connection she had been missing. Despite her reassurances, Jane and Michael remained uneasy, their apprehension lingering like an unspoken shadow. In a surprising twist, Catherine announced her plans to marry Luke. The news was met with a mix of shock and disbelief from her family. They struggled to reconcile the image of their mother with a man so much younger, and the impending marriage stirred a whirlpool of emotions. Despite their reservations, they began preparations for the wedding, their faces reflecting a complex blend of support and skepticism. As the wedding day approached, the atmosphere was charged with an uneasy mixture of anticipation and trepidation. The ceremony, though unconventional, was marked by Catherine's visible joy. She was radiant, a stark contrast to the grief-stricken widow who had stood by Robert's grave only weeks earlier. Her happiness was palpable, a beacon amidst the uncertainty. However, as Catherine embraced this new chapter, the seeds of doubt sown by her children began to take root. Their concerns were about to be validated in ways they could never have anticipated. Little did they know, The path ahead would unravel secrets and reveal intentions that would shake the very foundation of their family's future. The wedding day dawned bright and crisp, a stark contrast to the overcast skies that had marked Robert's funeral. Catherine, dressed in a flowing white gown that shimmered with newfound vitality, was a vision of happiness. Her children, Jane and Michael, stood by, their expressions a mixture of worry and hope. Their concern was masked behind polite applause as the ceremony unfolded in the grand hall of their sprawling estate. It was an unusual spectacle, but for Catherine, it was a moment of pure joy. Luke, dressed in a sleek black suit, stood beside her at the altar. The stark disparity in their ages was undeniable, yet in this moment it seemed irrelevant. Catherine looked at Luke with a mixture of love and excitement, her eyes reflecting the hopes and dreams she had begun to rekindle. The guests watched with a blend of curiosity and apprehension, trying to absorb the surreal nature of the event. As the vows were exchanged, Jane and Michael exchanged uneasy glances. They had tried to voice their concerns to Catherine, but she had brushed them off, assuring them that Luke was genuine and that he made her happy. The ceremony concluded with cheers and congratulations, but beneath the surface, an undercurrent of skepticism remained. In the weeks following the wedding, Catherine and Luke settled into their new life together. Catherine's spirit soared, buoyed by the presence of her young husband and the renewed sense of purpose he brought into her life. They traveled together, dined at luxurious restaurants, and indulged in activities that Catherine had long missed. To the outside world, it seemed as though Catherine had rediscovered her youthful zest for life. However, as the days passed, Jane and Michael's concerns deepened. They noticed subtle changes in their mother's behavior. Catherine seemed increasingly isolated from them, her interactions becoming more strained and defensive. It wasn't long before they began to suspect that Luke's intentions might not be as pure as he had portrayed. The turning point came when Jane decided to investigate Luke further. She discovered discrepancies in his background that raised alarm bells. Her investigation revealed that Luke had a history of financial troubles and questionable associations. Jane's findings were unsettling but not conclusive. She shared her concerns with Michael, who was equally troubled but unsure of how to confront their mother. Meanwhile, Daniel, Catherine's grandson, continued to host his parties in the backyard, the sound of music and laughter providing a temporary distraction from the growing tension. It was at one of these gatherings that Catherine first sensed a change in Luke's demeanor. He had become increasingly possessive and controlling, a shift that didn't escape Catherine's notice. One evening, Catherine stumbled upon a conversation between Luke and Daniel that sent chills down her spine. She overheard them discussing the estate and the substantial inheritance, $150 million, that Catherine had received. The words scheme and plan were mentioned in hushed tones. Catherine's heart raced as she realized the gravity of the situation. Unable to ignore her suspicions any longer, Catherine decided to take action. She reached out to a private detective, a trusted professional who had previously helped her with legal matters. The detective, a shrewd and experienced investigator named Richard, began to look into Luke's background and his connection to Daniel. As the investigation progressed, Richard uncovered a troubling truth. Luke and Daniel were involved in a plot to gain control of Catherine's inheritance. The scheme was elaborate. Luke had been manipulating Catherine's emotions to gain her trust and eventually access to her fortune. Daniel had been orchestrating the plan from behind the scenes, using his parties and gatherings as a cover for his machinations. The revelation was a devastating blow to Catherine, who felt betrayed by the very people she had welcomed into her life. Determined to protect her family's legacy, Catherine collaborated closely with Richard and the police to gather evidence. The investigation revealed that Luke had been preparing to make a move that would have left Catherine vulnerable and her inheritance compromised. The sense of betrayal was profound, but Catherine's resolve to confront the situation head-on grew stronger. The plan culminated in a dramatic showdown. Catherine, armed with evidence of Luke's deceit, confronted him in a tense and emotional exchange. Cornered and exposed, Luke attempted to escalate the situation. In a moment of desperation, he tried to suffocate Catherine, revealing the extent of his treachery. The police arrived just in time to intervene, arresting Luke and ensuring Catherine's safety. The confrontation was a jarring reminder of the dangers that lurked behind seemingly benign faces. Jane and Michael, horrified but relieved, gathered around their mother, providing the support she desperately needed. In the aftermath, Catherine faced the challenge of rebuilding trust and mending her fractured relationships. Her children, now more understanding of her plight, rallied around her, determined to support her as she navigated the fallout from the ordeal. The experience had been a harsh lesson, but it had also strengthened the bonds within the family. The weeks following Luke's arrest were a whirlwind of emotions for Catherine. The once vibrant atmosphere of her home was now filled with a somber tension. Luke's betrayal had left a deep scar, but Catherine's determination to reclaim her life and protect her family's legacy was unwavering. Jane and Michael, though shaken by the revelations, were resolute in their support for their mother. Catherine's first priority was to ensure that the $150 million inheritance was secure. With Richard's assistance, she took measures to safeguard her assets, making sure that all legal and financial arrangements were reinforced. The private detective's thorough investigation not only exposed Luke's deceit, but also provided Catherine with a clearer understanding of how to protect herself from further schemes. During this time, Catherine found solace in reconnecting with her children. Jane and Michael visited more frequently, and their interactions became more heartfelt and genuine. Michael, who had been cautious and distant, opened up about his feelings of helplessness during the ordeal. "I never imagined it would come to this," he admitted one evening as they sat around the dinner table. "I'm just glad you're safe, Mom." Jane, ever the concerned daughter, took on the role of mediator, helping to rebuild the family's emotional connections. Catherine organized weekly family dinners where everyone could talk openly and share their experiences. These gatherings became a cornerstone of their healing process. "We need to be there for each other more than ever," Jane said during one such dinner. "We've been through a lot, but we're stronger together." Despite the growing closeness within the family, Catherine still grappled with the emotional impact of the betrayal. She found herself reflecting on her past with Robert and the life they had built together. The once joyous memories were now tinged with a sense of loss. During one of her quiet moments of reflection, Catherine began to recognize the importance of her own resilience. She realized that while the betrayal had hurt deeply, it was also an opportunity for growth and renewal. Determined to move forward, Catherine began engaging in activities she had once enjoyed. She took long walks in the garden, reconnected with old friends, and even started attending local community events. Her efforts to reclaim her sense of self were met with encouragement from her family. Jane and Michael supported her newfound interests, often joining her in these activities. They attended art exhibitions, theater performances, and even went on weekend getaways, rediscovering the joy of spending time together. One evening, as Catherine and Jane sat on the porch watching the sun set over the horizon, Catherine shared her thoughts about the future. "I've realized that I need to focus on what truly matters," she said softly. "It's not just about the inheritance or the material things. It's about the love and support we have for each other." Jane nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of understanding and warmth. "We've come a long way, Mom. We've learned so much from all of this. We need to cherish every moment and support each other through thick and thin." The family's renewed commitment to one another was evident in their daily interactions. They made a conscious effort to stay connected and involved in each other's lives. Catherine's resilience was mirrored in her children's dedication to rebuilding their family bonds. They organized family outings, game nights, and spontaneous adventures, creating new memories to replace those marred by the recent turmoil. Catherine's relationship with her grandson Daniel also began to heal. Although Daniel had been part of the scheme, he expressed deep regret for his actions and sought forgiveness. Catherine, while initially hesitant, decided to give him a chance to make amends. She invited him to family gatherings, allowing him to rebuild trust through consistent, genuine efforts. "I know I've made mistakes," Daniel admitted during one family dinner, "but I want to make things right." As the months passed, Catherine's home once again became a place of joy and warmth. The scars of betrayal were still present, but they no longer defined her. Instead, Catherine focused on embracing the present and looking forward to the future. Her strength and resilience had not only helped her overcome a difficult period, but had also brought her family closer together. In the end, Catherine's journey was a testament to the power of love, support, and resilience. The challenges she faced had strengthened her bond with her family, and the shared experiences had deepened their understanding of one another. As Catherine looked around at her family, Jane, Michael, Adam, and Daniel, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. They had faced adversity together and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever life might bring. Months had passed since the dramatic events that shook Catherine's life. The ordeal with Luke and Daniel had left deep marks, but Catherine's resilience and the unwavering support of her family had led them through a period of profound transformation. The family's newfound closeness was evident in every interaction and shared moment, and Catherine's home was once again filled with laughter and warmth. The once somber house now buzzed with activity as Catherine and her children organized a grand family reunion. It was not just a celebration of their renewed bond, but also a symbolic gesture of moving forward together. Catherine, dressed in a vibrant dress she had carefully chosen to mark the occasion, looked around at her family with a mixture of pride and contentment. Jane was busy arranging flowers in the dining room. Michael was setting up the outdoor barbecue, and Adam was putting the finishing touches on a slideshow of family photos. Daniel, having proven his sincerity through consistent actions, was actively helping with the preparations. "It feels good to be part of something positive again," he said to Catherine as he carried a tray of drinks. Catherine smiled warmly at him. "It's good to have you here, Daniel. We're all moving forward together." As guests began to arrive, the atmosphere was filled with cheerful chatter and the aroma of delicious food. The family had invited close friends and neighbors, turning the event into a true celebration of love and renewal. Amidst the festivities, Catherine took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. The betrayal by Luke and Daniel had been painful, but it had also exposed the strength and resilience within her. Catherine's decision to focus on her family and embrace life's joys had not only helped her heal, but had also strengthened the bonds among her loved ones. She looked at her children, Jane, Michael, and Adam, and saw a renewed sense of unity and purpose. During the evening's toast, Catherine stood up, her heart full of gratitude. "I want to thank each one of you for being here tonight," she began, her voice steady and warm. "The past year has been one of the most challenging times of my life, but it has also shown me the depth of our family's love and strength. We faced difficulties, but we've come through them stronger and more connected." Her words were met with applause and cheers. Jane and Michael exchanged glances, their eyes reflecting their own pride in their mother's journey. "Here's to new beginnings," Jane said, raising her glass. "To family, to love, and to the future." The evening continued with laughter, music, and shared stories. As Catherine watched her family enjoying themselves, she felt a deep sense of peace. The scars from the past were still there, but they no longer dominated her life. Instead, she chose to focus on the present and the future, cherishing every moment with those she loved. As the night drew to a close, Catherine found herself sitting on the porch with Jane and Michael. The cool breeze and the starry sky provided a tranquil backdrop for their conversation. "I never thought I'd feel this content again," Catherine said softly, "but I do. I've learned that true happiness comes from the people we love and the moments we share." Jane placed a hand on her mother's shoulder. "We've all learned a lot this year, Mom. We've seen the importance of sticking together and supporting one another." Michael nodded in agreement. "And we've realized that no matter what challenges come our way, we can overcome them as a family." Catherine smiled, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. The $150 million inheritance, once a source of conflict and anxiety, had been secured and was now a symbol of their collective strength and resilience. The true treasure, she realized, was the love and support they had for each other. As they sat together under the night sky, Catherine felt a renewed sense of hope and optimism. The future was filled with possibilities, and she knew that with her family by her side, they could face whatever came their way. The story of Catherine's journey from loneliness to renewal was a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of family bonds. In the end, it was not the inheritance or the material wealth that mattered most, but the love and support that had seen them through the darkest times. As the final notes of the evening's music played and the last guest departed, Catherine looked around her home with a sense of contentment. The challenges of the past had been overcome, and the future was bright. Surrounded by her loving family, Catherine felt truly happy, knowing that together, they could conquer any challenge life might present. "My name is Jack, and I'm an office worker. But there's been a long-standing feud in my department between my boss, Tom, and me. We always seem to clash. Tom, I really think that approach is bound to fail. We need to plan this out properly," I'd say, trying to push for some common sense. But Tom's work was always sloppy, causing trouble for the rest of the team. Everyone else was too scared to stand up to him, our fearsome boss. I'm the only one who ever speaks out. Shut it, Jack. You're so annoying, Tom would say, sighing dramatically, his dismissive tone sparking yet another argument. Today was no different, with Tom and me butting heads again. But what made today unusual was the way Tom kept smirking, even as he lectured me in front of everyone, a humiliating situation. What's with that attitude? I shot back, frustrated. If you have a problem, just say it. Tom's smirk deepened, his eyes gleaming with something unsettling. It's because of your attitude that you're a failure as a husband, he said, his voice dripping with malice. His words cut deep, like he knew more about my private life than he should. He covered his mouth slightly, pretending to regret what he said. Oops, can't say any more than that, he added before heading outside for a smoke. I couldn't shake off his words and I followed him outside. I have a wife named Emily, 2 years younger than me, but our relationship has been strained lately. As Tom lit his cigarette, I confronted him, demanding to know what he meant. Tom just smirked, taking a long drag before blowing out a cloud of smoke. Then he dropped a bombshell. Emily is going to remarry me. What? My hand trembled slightly as his words sank in. It doesn't matter to you anyway, right? You were planning to divorce her soon, weren't you? Tom's tone was mocking. It was true that Emily and I had been drifting apart, but I never intended to divorce her. I loved her and wanted to work on mending our relationship. But Tom was relentless. You're too full of yourself. That's why she's leaving you, he sneered. Then, leaning closer, he whispered, Do you know what Emily says about you? She says you're all talk. He laughed, tossing his cigarette butt into the ashtray, before delivering one last jab. Your wife's the best, he said, walking back to the office, leaving me standing there, speechless. I'm just a regular office worker at an ordinary company in New York, and my romance with Emily began at work. We met during our new employee training, where we hit it off and eventually started dating. Our relationship progressed smoothly into marriage. Emily was always responsible, and I admired her work ethic. When we married, Emily wanted to keep working, but I insisted that she stay home and take care of the family. I promised to be the breadwinner, assuring her that I provide for us. Emily agreed, but said that if we had children, she'd quit her job to be a mother. After that, she resigned and became a full-time housewife. But in hindsight, that might have been when things started to change. The biggest issue between us was that we didn't have children. Emily became increasingly stressed, blaming herself for quitting her job when we couldn't start a family. Whenever I tried to comfort her, she'd push me away, yelling, Don't touch me. You took my job away, and yet you keep working the same job. Why don't you bring home a promotion for once? Her anger grew, and our arguments became more heated. For over 6 months, we went through a rough patch. During that time, she might have secretly started seeing my boss, Tom. Apparently, she called me all talk. My empty promises and inability to fulfill them had driven a wedge between us. I remember Tom always favoring Emily, and they might have kept in touch even after I married her. As our relationship soared, they probably started an affair. I wanted to confront Emily about everything, but when I got home, her belongings were gone. The affair was real, and having my wife taken by my nemesis boss was a humiliation beyond words. Nothing could have been more frustrating. Gradually, I couldn't stand working at the same company as Tom and decided to quit. Misfortune seemed to follow me everywhere. Why are you quitting, Jack? My colleagues would ask. I'd just smile and say, I'm moving on to a new job. None of them knew about my divorce or her affair with Tom. I couldn't possibly tell them the truth. Maybe I should have sued for the affair, but all I wanted was to escape, to a place where I didn't have to see Tom's face. Being alone in the house felt even worse. The absence of Emily made our 2-bedroom apartment feel vast and empty. Though I told my colleagues I was getting a new job, I had no motivation to start job hunting. I wandered aimlessly around the city until I found myself in the nightlife district. Maybe I should drink my sorrows away just for tonight, I thought. Standing in front of a bar that caught my eye, I resolved to drown my misery until morning and reached for the door. At that moment, I heard a woman's voice behind me saying, There you are. I've missed you so much. Startled, I turned around to see a woman I didn't recognize, who then grabbed my arm and acted as if we were a couple, leaving me utterly confused. What? I managed to stammer. The woman, still clinging to my arm, asked, Where are we going tonight? Her behavior was strange, but then I noticed something. Her arm was trembling slightly, and her smile seemed forced, like she was hiding fear. Something wasn't right. Thinking quickly, I decided to play along. "Well, let's go to a place you like," I said, trying to sound natural. She nodded slightly, relief washing over her face, and eagerly said, "Yay. Follow me, please." I followed her lead as she guided me to a nightclub. Once we were standing in front of the club, she sighed in relief. "Thank you for going along with my story. I managed to get through that thanks to you." The woman introduced herself as Ashley, though she admitted it was an alias she used at the club. "I was invited by Ashley. Please come with me," she said, leading me to a seat inside. Once we were seated, she explained why she had pretended to know me. "I've actually been stalked by a customer who keeps insisting on an after-party. He's this awful old guy who touches me inappropriately. I always refuse because who knows what he might do if I went with him," she explained, her voice trembling slightly. "I see. So you clung to me or any guy nearby because you felt in danger?" I asked. "That's right," she nodded. "It was just awful, but I was saved because you were there. I really like dependable men," she added, placing her hand on my thigh. Ashley was a very beautiful woman, and just her touch was enough to make my heart race. Having been called unreliable by Emily and essentially discarded, Ashley's words rebuilt my shattered pride. "Let's enjoy the night," she said seductively, her eyes captivating me. Just then, a waiter approached and said, "Feel free to have a drink," offering us a menu. "I'll take you up on that offer," I said, reaching for the menu, but before I could grab it, something unexpected happened. "Excuse me," a woman suddenly intervened. "Hey, what's up, Sarah?" "I don't need help," Ashley said, her tone shifting. But the woman, whom Ashley called Sarah, glared at her intensely. "Ashley, please stop doing this," she said sternly. Ashley's demeanor changed abruptly, and she snapped. "What?" "Come with me," Sarah said, grabbing my arm and pulling me out of the club. As I was being dragged along, I couldn't help but wonder how many times I was going to be grabbed by a woman today. Once we were outside, Sarah looked around and said, "We should be safe here." "Sorry, Jack." "Oh no, it's okay. I'm getting used to being dragged around," I replied, still trying to process everything. "Wait, how do you know my name?" "Don't you recognize me?" she asked, turning to face me. I stared at her, trying to place her face. Suddenly, it clicked. "Lily, is that you?" Lily was a junior from my company. I had recently left the company, and my impression of Lily was that she was a very serious and quiet woman who barely wore makeup. But now, her mascara was dramatically curled, and her bold cheek and lip makeup made her look like a completely different person, a woman of the night. "You work here?" I asked, still trying to reconcile the Lily I knew with the person in front of me. Lily nodded. Sarah was her alias in the club. I knew the company allowed side jobs, but I never imagined she had this other side. "When I saw you come to the club, I was surprised," she admitted. "But since you left the company recently, I thought it wouldn't be a problem to talk to you. I didn't want to see a former senior getting tricked." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "That Ashley, she's been using some pretty nasty tactics to lure customers lately. Did she grab your arm and say she missed you, making up a story about being stalked by another customer?" Realizing she was right, I let out an involuntary gasp. Lily sighed, clearly troubled. "Just as I thought. It seemed you almost fell for a kind of theatrical scam." I felt a wave of embarrassment wash over me. What a spectacle, in front of a junior no less. I'm so embarrassed. "Thanks for the help, Lily." "It's nothing really," she said. "The club had its eye on Ashley's behavior anyway. I'll report your case to the manager." "That's a relief," I said, feeling grateful. "Can I ask you something?" "What is it?" she responded. "Just curious, but why are you working at a place like this?" I was surprised, I admitted. "But you don't have to answer if you don't want to." "I just wanted to drink until I pass out today. I feel lonely and wanted to hear someone's story." Feeling a bit pathetic for leaning on a junior, I braced myself and asked her. Lily seemed to ponder for a moment, then whispered, "It's you, Jack, so I guess it would be fine." She took a deep breath and began her story. "Actually, I'm being forced to work at this club, almost like it's against my will." "What?" I asked, shocked. "My mother is a bit of a mess. After she divorced my father, she went off the deep end, got involved in some weird religion, and racked up a huge debt. Now I'm the one trying to pay it off. But that's your mother's debt, not yours, right? I protested. Lily turned her face away. I've always done whatever my mother told me to. She demanded money, so I just followed her orders. Lily shared that she had grown up enduring violence from her mentally unstable mother, which made it nearly impossible for her to defy her. I used to be a brighter girl, she confessed, but ever since my mother changed, I've become shy and gloomy. I hate what I've become. For the first time, I saw Lily's expression, usually so composed, twist in pain as she spoke these words. It must have been a very difficult life, a life bound by her mother. Watching her, I felt a strange urge to help. Why don't you just run away from your mother? I asked gently. Lily looked at me with surprise in her eyes. I've tried to run away so many times, but I'm scared. Her presence is just. Her shoulders trembled slightly, as if she were reliving unpleasant memories. I gently placed my hand on her shoulder. Then let me help you talk to your mother. Why would you go that far for me, Jack? She asked, bewildered. I shrugged and gave her a small smile. I got divorced, you know. About Emily, she was having an affair with Tom. A divorce? Really? She asked, shocked. Yes, I confirmed, trying to smile, but inside, I felt like crying. I ran away from that job. I had to escape. It's embarrassing and pathetic, but I ran and ran. I repeated the word ran and then added, I'm trying to grab onto the next happiness. I surprised myself. Just moments ago, I had been in the depths of despair, but now I could say something so positive. It's okay to run from the past. Now, next time, you just need to find happiness in the future. It felt like I was telling myself more than Lily. Right? I should also look forward, she said softly. The reason I wanted to help Lily was that I saw her on the same brink of despair I had been. When I looked up, our eyes met. Lily, with a slightly apologetic expression, asked, Will you really help me? I definitely will, I replied, determined. We later arranged to meet with her mother. A few days later, I went to Lily's family home and met her mother. Could you please let your daughter go? Let her be free, I pleaded. But her mother yelled back, Don't stick your nose into other people's family matters. Your daughter is an excellent worker, but if she keeps juggling a day job and a night job, she'll break down eventually. Are you okay with that? I found myself shouting, trying to reach her, but her mother refused to listen, and with a harsh tone, she threatened, If you say another word, I'll call the police. Just then Lily, with tears welling up in her eyes, said, Mom, please stop. I'm going to leave you. It seemed my words had given Lily the courage she needed. Despite her long-standing fear of her domineering mother, she now confronted her with all the frustration she'd been holding back. It was an ordeal so intense that I wondered if it was even appropriate for me, an outsider, to witness. The realization that her daughter was truly leaving must have struck her mother hard, as she suddenly pleaded, Please don't abandon me. But Lily's resolve didn't waver. Finally, she said goodbye and pulled my arm as we left the house. On the way home, Lily asked me, Was this the right thing to do? It was, I reassured her. Take some time away from her. You can meet her again later, but for now, just take care of yourself. As I said this, Lily seemed to find some resolution. For the first time, she showed me a genuine smile, saying, You're right. Let me treat you to something as a thank you next time. Her smile soothed my troubled heart. I never knew Lily's smile could be so lovely. I found myself gazing at her for a long while. From that day on, our relationship changed from former colleagues to companions who had shared tough experiences. Later, Lily and I started dating. She became brighter, more beautiful, and always shared her smiles with me. Then, one day, I ran into the most unexpected people. It was my ex-wife, Emily, and my former boss, Tom. Wow, what's this? Are you two together now? That's quite a surprise, Tom said, looking astonished as he switched his gaze between Lily and me. Emily, on the other hand, awkwardly averted her eyes from me. My heart almost stopped upon encountering these two, the very source of my trauma. I braced myself for what they might say, but surprisingly, it was Lily who spoke first. Tom, have you found a new job yet? She asked casually. It was too late by the time Tom responded. Hey, wait. Emily turned to him, demanding, What do you mean, new job? That guy caused some problems at the workplace, so he's resigning at the end of this month as part of taking responsibility. So good luck, Tom. Lily said with a sly grin, then pulled my arm, saying, "Let's go." As we walked past them, I could hear Emily and Tom's loud argument fade into the distance. Feeling a bit relieved, Lily grinned and said, "That was a little payback for the two who hurt you." Her dependable smile made me smile too. With Lily, I felt I could find happiness again. This incident made me sure of her love for me. In fact, I've already purchased an engagement ring and have it tucked away in my room. I'm secretly planning to give it to her in the near future.
Shame on you for firing someone who simply wanted to help a veteran. Linda was a kind-hearted hairstylist who offered a free haircut to a struggling veteran. Her generous act of kindness cost her job, but it didn't go unnoticed. Just 30 minutes later, an unexpected visitor arrived at the salon, changing Kelly's life forever. Hi everyone, welcome. Today, I'm excited to share a new story with you. Let's dive in. Linda, a young woman in her late 20s, worked at a beauty salon. While her peers pursued high-flying careers, Linda chose to become a hairstylist, a passion she had nurtured since childhood. Despite her parents' disapproval and insistence on a more traditional career path, Linda followed her heart. She dreamt of one day owning her own salon, even though the job offered modest earnings. When she was just 19, Linda's parents kicked her out of the house for refusing to attend college and study engineering, as her father had wanted. Fortunately, within weeks, she found a job at Marries beauty salon, where she worked for 6 years. Linda lived in a small town where everyone knew each other, and news spread quickly. Marries beauty salon was one of the largest in town, with over 50% of the townspeople getting their hair done there. But it wasn't just the salon's size that drew customers, it was Linda. She was passionate about her work, always cheerful, kind, and had a great sense of humor. Linda made sure every customer felt welcome, providing top-notch service and remembering the names of her clients and their children, if they had any. She genuinely cared about the people she served. One summer day, Linda arrived at the salon around 8:00 a.m. as usual, but decided to make a quick stop at a street coffee stand first. At the stand, she bumped into Jason, a man in his early 40s who had once served in the military. Everyone in town knew Jason's story, how he struggled to adapt to civilian life after years of service, and how his wife had divorced him shortly after his return. Jason's life had spiraled downward after the divorce. He became depressed, lost touch with reality, and was unable to keep a job or take care of himself. Most days, he relied on the kindness of the townspeople for support. That day, like many others, Jason was dressed scruffily, with unkempt hair and beard. "Hey Jason, how are you doing today?" Linda asked in an excited tone as she spotted him at the coffee stand. "Hi, Linda. I'm fine. It's great to see you again," Jason responded with a smile. "Want some coffee?" Linda offered. "Oh, I wouldn't want to be a bother," Jason replied hesitantly. "Come on, we're friends, Jason. Why would you be a bother?" Linda chuckled, then turned to the coffee vendor and asked for another cup of coffee for Jason. Shortly after, Jason's coffee was ready. The two of them grabbed their cups and began walking toward the salon, which was just a short distance away. As they walked, Linda and Jason chatted about everyday things, and Linda could tell that her small gesture had lifted Jason's spirits. He sounded happier, and his smile came more easily. When they arrived at the front of the salon, Jason thanked Linda again for the coffee and was about to say goodbye when Linda stopped him. "One more thing, Jason. If you're free later today, why don't you come by the salon? I'll give you a haircut. It's on me," Linda said with a wide smile. "Oh no, you don't have to. You've already done more than enough," Jason said, taken aback by her generosity. "I insist, Jason. It's on me. Come by whenever you're free. I'll be waiting for you," Linda replied warmly. "Thank you so much, Linda. I'll come by later today," Jason said gratefully before walking away. After opening the salon for the day, Linda couldn't stop thinking about Jason and how much his life had changed. Once a man the whole town admired and looked up to as a hero, Jason's life had taken a downturn after he left the military. Later that afternoon, Linda had just finished attending to a customer when Jason walked into the salon. As soon as she was done, she asked Jason to sit down, wrapped a neck strip around his collar, and draped the cape over him. About 10 minutes into the haircut, Linda's boss, Mrs. Sidney, a woman in her early 40s, walked into the salon. Known throughout the town as a rude businesswoman who cared only about money and never about others' feelings, Sidney's presence immediately changed the atmosphere in the room. At first, when Sidney saw Linda attending to Jason, she didn't say a word. Instead of heading to her office, Sidney took a seat near Jason, silently watching them. When Linda finally finished cutting Jason's hair and shaving his beard, Jason thanked her sincerely and was about to leave when Sidney spoke up. "Jason, where's your payment?" Sidney demanded. Linda quickly intervened. "About that, you can take it out of my paycheck. I wanted to treat him." "No, Linda. I can't allow that," Sidney replied coldly. "I didn't build this business by giving away free haircuts to people who can't afford to pay." "No, ma'am, you're mistaken," Linda explained. "Jason didn't come here on his own. I invited him to give him a haircut. I saw him earlier today, and I don't care if you saw him today or 10 years ago." Sidney cut her off, her voice rising. "If Jason doesn't pay for that haircut, then you're fired." "Please, it hasn't come to that. Let me," Jason began, trying to mediate. "There's no need, Jason. You can go ahead. I'll join you shortly," Linda said calmly, reassuring him. With a heavy heart, Jason reluctantly walked out of the salon. As Jason left, some townspeople noticed he looked unusually downcast. Concerned, a woman approached him. "Jason, is everything all right?" "No, everything's not all right," Jason replied in a sad and defeated tone. "The nice salon lady gave me a free haircut, and her boss fired her for it." "You're not serious, are you?" a man standing nearby asked, shocked. "I know Linda. She's a good person. Why would her boss do that?" As Jason tried to explain what had happened, more people gathered around, curious about the commotion. When they heard the story, their outrage grew, and soon the news spread like wildfire through the town. Somehow, the news reached the mayor. Hearing that Linda was being punished for her kindness, the mayor decided to take action. Meanwhile, back at the salon, Linda was cleaning up, unaware of the storm brewing outside. She had no idea that Jason had told so many people about her boss firing her for her act of kindness. 30 minutes after Jason left the salon, the mayor walked in with Jason by his side, just as Linda was about to grab her bag and leave. As soon as Sidney, Linda's boss, saw the mayor, she rushed over to greet him. Outside, Linda and Jason could see a crowd gathering behind the mayor. "Welcome, Mr. Mayor. To what do we owe this pleasant surprise?" Sidney asked, trying to sound cheerful. But the mayor ignored her, turning to Linda instead. "Hello, Linda. Is it true that your boss fired you because you gave Mr. Jason here a free haircut?" the mayor asked. When the mayor asked, Linda noticed her boss subtly shaking her head, signaling Linda to lie. But Linda stood her ground. "Yes, Mayor, that's true. I was just about to leave before you walked in," Linda answered honestly. "For your kindness, Linda, the townspeople, and I have decided to reward you with a little something. This is to show our appreciation for your compassion and to encourage you to continue being the good person you are," the mayor said, handing Linda a certificate of recognition and a large white envelope. Linda's joy soared as she received the certificate and took a photo with the mayor. When she later opened the envelope and saw the amount of money inside, she could hardly contain her happiness. Grateful for the support, Linda made a decision that would change her life forever. A few months later, Linda opened her own beauty salon with the money she had received from the mayor. The townspeople, eager to support her, stopped going to Mora's beauty salon and chose to get their haircuts and braids done at Linda's new salon. The overwhelming success led to an expansion, with a second branch opening soon after, and Linda's income continued to grow. As for Sydney, she was forced to close her beauty salon after losing all her customers. She learned a hard lesson, but by then, it was too late to save her business. The true currency of life isn't money. It's the kindness we give and receive. Invest wisely. If you love this story, tap that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Let us know how this story made you feel with a single word in the comments.